explorers, welcome to this week's episode of the Hotspot Show. As usual, this is a show that takes you to amazing places where we go to learn and have fun. Today we are still at the National Archives of Kenya, here in the capital city, Nairobi. Last week we managed to check out the lower deck, and today we are checking out the upper deck with Okumu. And you know what? This is still going to be an amazing show. Now, without further ado, let's check out what this upper deck has for us. Jambo tena. Hivi nade.
Hadi waberi jaber.
Ber.
Na wewe.
Osiep chunya. Hapo ndo mali imefikia.
Jahera na my lover.
Abiro chwadi.
Matek.
Pole. Interesting. Na mimi kidogo nataka pia kujisifu na pale mali nimetoka. Uko Taita Taveta, mimi ni Mtaveta. Nitakufundisha salamu yetu baadaye. But at this point ungefaa kuniuliza jahako. Kumaanisha uko aje, alafu na kujibu Jedi.
Jahako Yusta.
Jedi. Now I think also our audience are ready for this episode. Na wako safi kabisa. Tuko kwa the second deck of this place, a beautiful landmark here in Kenya, of course at the heart of Nairobi city. Tell us today where we are standing. What is in here?
What we expect ahead in this upper gallery, we expect to see actually the pre-colonial history, the culture and ways of life. We expect to see the struggle of independence. The other wall, the other side, where there are a lot of artifacts, we have got now the Dao trade, the history of the early visitors.
Which year was that?
Those are 18th century going down. And then towards the end at that corner where we have got the seat of the president, the seat of the prime minister, that is now the post-independent history. And then to crown it up, because we nowadays have got two governments, the national government and the county government. Then we have got the devolved government here, and this is what brings us now to the post-2010 era. Now from there you can be able to see this is culture and ways of life of African natives. You can be able to see when they used to deal with the ideas to deal with health issues like this. You can see definitely this is pottery. You can see this is an African child with well behavior. This is shelter. You can see this work of saloon used to be the innovation of the boy child. You can see the boys are the ones who innovated those good styles in your hand. And you can see how malaria was being treated. It's called bloodletting. Nowadays we do blood donation. And you can see a dental surgeon, Kikuyu dental surgeon. There's no pampering here. It was very painful. You can also see an African bar and restaurant. This is Kipsigis Beer Party. Very friendly. We have got the paramount chief. This one talks about the administration during the colonial times. Some of them collaborated, some of them resisted. But there were a lot of atrocities that were done to them. Like Wayaki Wahinga, paramount chief Mwadhamaki Wayaki Wahinga was buried alive. So those are very dangerous atrocities which were caused by the then serious governor and a very terrible governor who was called Sir Evelyn Barings. Is the one who started the state of emergency. So the student must come here, and this is a history laboratory. We must be able to directly show them where they have come from and where we are going. And you can also be able to see that we have got the struggle of independence here. You can see there were two categories of Africans. There were two sets. One set was fighting for their land and freedom like Dedan Kimathi, who was a field marshal. Another set of Africans, their work was to kill other Africans because of the British. Those are what now we call collaborators. And then we have got resistance.
Okay, what's this letter about? Dedan Kimathi in 1957?
Yes.
To whom was he addressing the letter to?
Actually, Dedan Kimathi was shot in 1956 and hung to death in 1957. But before that one happened, he had seen his death coming. So he wrote a letter to the father, a Catholic father, trying to tell him that whenever things are going to be bad, and please make sure my family is well taken care of. He had seen his death coming.
You can actually even tell from the sign of yours loving and departing.
Correct.
Yes.
Didan Kimathi. And this is very important also because this was Kipande system. It's a very big system in our curriculum. And this was identification and and traveling document. During colonial times, Africans were restricted on movement. So there's a lot
Their
here.
IDs at the time.
Yes.
Okay.
As you can also be able to see, all this photograph explains where we have come from in terms of struggling. For example, you can be able to see that is capture and detention. You can be able to see an emergency village. That is where the name of chief started getting bad. Because when men were fighting in the bush like this, the chief and the colonial administration had collected the children plus the women of those people and built for them one general village called an emergency village. Oh, Madam Yusta, actually where we are now here, even in our school curriculum academy, they usually talk about this particular history. Where we are, the industry and agriculture, this is now the manifesto that was adopted at the peak of independence. Eradication of diseases, eradication of poverty, and eradication of illiteracy, adult education, which is normally called Gombaro. Then the British never allowed us to play politics here until 1957, when they allowed us now to have a bicameral parliament. But we became a colony of the British in 1920, 11th of June, a very important date in our calendar, and that's how things turned. And now from here, these are just prominent personality. It means that these are the people that actually removed power from the hands of the British back to the Africans. They are the ones that gave our first president, Jomo Kenyatta, power. It actually is called the transition office. It looks at how one president can live peacefully and another one coming in peacefully. Nowadays, we don't have police commissioners as the head of the police. We have got definitely the Inspector General of Police. And then last year we have got Kenya Defense Forces, which we have got the history of the country properly here. And we can easily be able to explain the relationship between the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces and the head of the CDF, how they relate very well and how they are elected and one is appointed. Yes. I
see. That is very impressive, the fact that you have all this history collected and summarized in one wall. Team Explorers, I mean, we already established when you come here, you're not only going to learn your culture, but you're also going to learn about your country by extension. Now, Mr. Okumu, yes, tunaona ukuta mwingine hapa mbele. Yes. What's in front of us?
This is now the early visitors.
Okay.
And you can see starting from the attires, what people are putting on, going down up to the other side. This is now the early visitors. And just to pick on this one very fast, as you can be able to see, this is how old people, long-time people used to send their feelings. You buy this dress depending on the information behind it. This one has ended nowadays. Nowadays, people go to WhatsApp and they go to status and they post. So that is how things have changed, but still we are not without trade. And you can be able to see, this is the Swahili treasury. There's a lot of history in the coastal region because that was the gateway. They are richer in terms of heritage more than the people living in the interior part of Kenya. And for that reason, this wall has been dedicated to them. If you have never seen a dhow, it was a traveling vessel, a sailing vessel, but it was not using any electricity or any other form of energy. Yes, it was using the strength of the wind, and that's why it was called the seasonal trade winds. And actually from here we can be able to see Chinese also participated in the dhow trade. This is the Chinese porcelain plate, which was used only by the rich people in the society. We have got this one for serving tea. Even in Ethiopia, it's very heavy and very treasury. And this was using to serve tea, actually for breakfast and all this. They are made from brass, copper, and they have got a lot of value. For example, if you see, this is now catering services during the dhow trade, which means these things were introduced to this country by the visitors who are coming from outside. For example, if you talk about sambusa, na mahamri. This is how, this is the utensil of preparing them. Apart from the catering, you can also be able to see this laundry work here, where you can be able to sample the first iron box. Pasi.
Naijua hiyo pasi.
Correct.
Nimeitumia. Ya kutumia makaa.
Yes,
lakini inaangukia nguo inachoma. Nimechoma nguo za mazee.
It is a preservation of only keen and neat people who are very observant. And they are made from copper, gold, brass,
iron.
And which means these are treasure and they are very valuable.
And I see they're also from far. This is from India. We have some from Arabia, North Africa, and Persia.
Middle East,
the Middle East.
Countries.
Okay.
And also ahead of me here, you can be able to see they are very diverse. We have got for security padlock. Yes, padlock. That is a padlock from India. The padlock itself looks like a handcuff of a police officer.
It actually looks like a weapon.
It is meant to deter thieving. This padlock has got no master key. So this is what was used by that particular time. And even above there, you can be able to see during cold season, like now we are approaching June, they could be able to use that brass bed warmer. They put charcoal inside, they put it under the bed.
You want to mean even in the old days, hata kama ni wakati wa zamani, still people had their ways around things, like how you warm your bed, what you used to cook, your padlocks. I mean, this is very impressive.
Madam Yusta, nowadays it is not being used because charcoal, carbon monoxide had killed people. Nowadays they just buy a duvet. And that is actually to explain where we have come from and where we are going. Yes.
Absolutely. What more is on the
ahead there? Actually, they almost the same things, but we can see social gathering. Whenever there was a social gathering, people want to eat. They used to have a very big one plate. That big one plate, which could fit everybody, is called sinia in better terms. Yes. And nowadays, I think because of people have changed of culture and things have changed a lot. Yes, people don't use that. Nowadays, people do catering services. They call a caterer, a professional caterer. They build a tent, and then they say now every visitor to go to the tent. And other people can even meet behind the tent. Yes.
Usijali, tuko about to meet behind the tent right after this commercial break, because we need to continue exploring this second deck of the National Archives of Kenya. This is the Joseph Murumbi Art Gallery. So keep it tuned here on the Hotspot Show. We will be right back. Hi explorers, welcome back from the break. Glad you're still watching the Hotspot Show. Now, I'm standing between the first president bust and Kenya's first presidential seat. I consider this very historic, and I think you should too. And I think I've been given permission to have a taste of it, and it feels so prime. Old, but very, very, very prime. Now, Mr. Okumu, who was with us since the beginning of this tour, is just going to join me, and he is going to tell us a brief history of all this we are seeing. You know, this particular corner feels like it carries a rich history of our motherland, Kenya. Is it?
Very true, Madam Yusta. This is the first political party to be formed in this country, but with multi-ethnicity. Okay. This is what made Kapegoria 6 to be arrested. This is Joseph Murumbi was the last person to hold the Cow's office before he went to exile in India, where his father was coming from. So this from here, Jomo Kenyatta came from the prison. He was arrested because of forming that political party. Africans were not allowed to have any kind of association. He was arrested, taken inside for 7 years. But when he came back, luckily, he became the first prime minister of Kenya, and that is in 1963. That is 1st of June. That is Madaraka Day. And he sat here.
This is the seat that is covered.
Yes.
Any reason why it's covered? Just to preserve
the covering is, all of them were covered. It's a way of preserving these things. We have to preserve them. And that's why we unveil only the one for presidency. The covering,
they are more or less similar?
The same thing. The difference is that of the occasion. This is Madaraka Day, and this one is Jamhuri Day. In better terms, we can talk about presidential system of governance here against, the parliamentary system of governance here against the presidential system of governance. The skin is of a giraffe, purposely because they are interested in political seasons that are approaching from ahead. They have to prepare like farmers. They use the neck of the giraffe to identify 2027, 2032, and 2037. This flag is exactly what shows the exact position where your president is in that country. Right. It is called the presidential standard. The presidential standard is usually the flag of the president, the flag that originates from the political party that appointed him to lead the party. When the party wins, he becomes, and again, most important, the flag is usually used for transition moment. This is what shows that this is now the president and this one is not the president. It is used for transition to show exact time that this one is now the transition moment.
Okay.
You cannot talk about this country called Kenya without talking about Jomo Kenyatta, Johnston Kamau, how he changed his name. So this place is very prestigious for us because when we talk about the history of Kenya, this is where we can be able to talk about it. And you can see the journey of Jomo Kenyatta. He was even once a hustler. And you can see, this is called...
He was a carpenter.
Yes, this is a carpenter. He became you can see even the first president has got no shoes here. And this is his wall. You can see the first president of Kenya and the fourth president of Kenya called Uhuru Kenyatta, who is the fourth president. You can see these photographs are all very important. This is what we call the presidential swag, a scenario whereby the first president, Jomo Kenyatta, is seated by the very vice president, Jaramogi Odinga, who is the father of Raila. Yeah. And you can see they are harmoniously working together. Yeah. From their head, they are putting the same attire. From their hands, they carry the same thing. And the legs, which means, this one means that the president and the vice president are harmoniously working together. Yeah. This is now the post-independent history. Yes. What happened after independence? For example, you can see the very first cabinet secretaries. Mm-hmm. This is called a lean cabinet. Lead cabinet is different from a bloated cabinet like that one of Kibaki. Okay. So that is that. And you can be able to see where we have come from, provincial administration. Mm-hmm. You can be able to see the premiership. This is post-independent history. For example, you can see post-election violence, yeah, where Raila was the prime minister, and under him, we were having two deputy prime ministers, one in charge of ODM like Mudavadi, and Uhuru Kenyatta was in charge of PNU affairs. Then we have got a difference between a deputy president and a vice president. Okay. What you see here are vice president. Starting from Baba ya Baba, actually it's called Jaramogi Odinga. All these people had got their different tales as a vice president. Being a vice president in Kenya was a problem. So what I can actually say is that from the way you can be able to see them here, when we want a deputy president, is a person that is elected. Vice president were only appointed after the general election. If you have been appointed, be prepared to work at the mercy of the appointee. You must be seen. That's why in the Moise government you could see people are kneeling down for the... So that's why I say that these are vice president and they have got different tales. Jaramogi resigned, Murumbi resigned, Moise stayed there, and you can be able to see Kibaki is also there, and Kibaki was an economist. Dr. Josephat Njuguna Wakaranja was the only vice president that was impeached in 1988. Then we have the shortest serving vice president, Musalia Mudavadi, but I'm very happy right now is a prime minister. Yeah. And then we only have got a vice president that died in the office. He was called Michael Wamalwa Kijana. And because that was a reserve of the lawyer, they decided to give another lawyer who was in the name of Ankumudi Awori. And my boss here, actually, Bwana Kalonzo, was the last serving vice president under the old constitution. Right now, as I speak, we have a deputy president. A deputy president is elected together alongside with the president in a joint ticket. The president cannot wake up and sack him. Stamps are ways of communication that were introduced by the British, and the stamps has got 4 components. The first component actually is the picture that you can be able to see. We have got the amount of this stamp, and this stamp has come from which country? Ghana. And then the third one is what is called perforations. Perforation is what makes you to be able to separate the stamps without interfering with the figures. So what I wanted to say is that it is the wife of Joseph Murumbi, who was called Sheila Murumbi, who originated from German, and Sheila Murumbi is the one who influenced Murumbi to the importance of preserving the African culture. And that is very important. For that particular reason, I will say that this collection of stamps, as Madam Minister said, that is philately. Initially, you had to buy a paper and a pen, write a letter, and then you buy a postage stamp for the letter to go outside the country. When the letter reaches there, it has got a lot of information. So what I want to say is that the pictures are in the stamps are very diverse. We have got photographs of human beings, the president, we have got the birds, we have got wildlife, we have got, yes, and things to do with heritage. And stamp is also one of the ways that a country that is doing well in a particular way, a country that is doing well in a particular way can be able to boast what they are doing, their sons and daughters, to put them in a global village. Are we together? So it is very important to have stamps here, and the stamp actually shows the original history of these particular countries in Africa. It's a way of the storage facility.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you've come across a stamp, here in Kenya, you could clearly see the big five are on the stamps, and he has said the stamps represent how, the richness of a particular country. So this is a really deep history to learn about, stamps and various countries and what they represent. So far, so good. I think we are on the last leg of this tour here on this second deck of the National Archives of Kenya. Let's go. We carry on to what's on the other side?
We are going to end the era with the devolved government. That is what is ahead of us there.
And that's the last
That
point?
is the post-2010 era. This is a history laboratory, and we have come from the pre-colonial, colonial, post-independence, are now where we are is post-2010 era. The reason why this one was created simply because initially after coming from general election and you never voted for that person, you are to kneel down for him for 5 years. So we put that in the constitution under devolved government. Nowadays, whether we voted for you or not, you have to give us a particular percentage. So which means development is a right of Kenyans. And that's why we came up with this devolved government. It's only that they are appearing here, and some of them might not be doing well with terms of integrity. But because they were the first ones to hold that particular office, that's why we have them here. And we have got 47 counties, and these are the first representative of that particular time.
While we are here, we are seeing students around, Is there like a particular day you allow them to come?
Like this time is a prime time for visiting. This is the second term. They come here purposely because in their schools, their teachers teach them theoretically. Yeah. They don't have a history laboratory there. Okay. So that's why they have come all the way from Murang'a to come physically. So somebody like Okumu can be able to do diagnosis, to take them through the history physically like a laboratory.
Thank you so much. You're so passionate about working here. What's the one thing that you as a person really pride in working at the National Archives of Kenya?
It is very important for me to get a privilege to work in this particular place because it's a sign of unity, and it's good to know your country. I know Kenya like the back of my hand. And it's very important to encourage every generation to understand where you have come from and to have proper projection where you are going.
Absolutely.
And that is, I'm very passionate, and actually I'm a champion of heritage. And I want to wish all Kenyans to invite you on behalf of the Director of Kenya National Archives. Please visit the Kenya National Archives so that you can be able to understand your country. You don't just grow like a tree.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being said. So much for your time walking us through the National Archives for 2 weekends in a row, and I'm pretty sure our team explorers who are watching this show, be it on TV, be it on YouTube, and even if you're following this conversation on our social media platforms, we are so grateful for sticking around, and it is our hope that you have thoroughly enjoyed the tour of the National Archives of Kenya. please pay a visit. And when you do, kindly remember to comment on the comment section below. My name is Eustace Segata, and from the entire crew and KTN Home at large, we are very grateful. See you on the next episode next Saturday.